Welcome to Mission Nonprofit. I'm Deborah Vinsel. Usually Robert Cam's in this chair, but he's a little under the weather, but he'll be back with you next month. Mission Nonprofit is designed to showcase nonprofit organizations right here in our own backyard. And it's our privilege tonight and honor to have with us representatives of the Rachel Corrie Foundation, an organization with a special place in all of our hearts. Joining me today in the studio is Cindy Corrie, Rachel Corrie's mother and the founder of the foundation, and their office manager, Jennifer Martinez. Thanks for coming to Mission Nonprofit. We appreciate you being here.
We're so glad to be here and to have the opportunity to share what we're doing.
This is a big year for the foundation and a big year for the Corrie family, I know. It was 10 years ago that we lost Rachel in Rafah, and the foundation was founded then, so you're recognizing 10 years of work on peace initiatives in Rachel's name. So tell us a little bit about the foundation, and I know many of our viewers know the story of how the foundation came together, but perhaps just a little bit about what brought us to this place.
After Rachel was killed in 2003, on March 16th, 2003, we had so much communication from people all around the world, locally too, and throughout this country. And one of the things that started to happen is that people sent little bits of money to us to do things with as a remembrance, I believe. And it was, for our family, there was a question, what do we do? And then we had the experience just a couple weeks after Rachel was killed of meeting Linda Beale, whose daughter Amy Beale had been killed in South Africa. And Linda was speaking in Seattle at the University of Washington. And Craig and I and my daughter Sarah all went up there and had time to really connect with her. And one of the things that her family had done was to start a foundation. And I remember asking her the question about whether she was ever able to reclaim part of her previous life after her daughter had been killed. And she thought for a moment, she said, not really. And my daughter Sarah said she kind of knew at that moment it was game over, that we were going to be going down a different path than we had been on before too. And it was that idea of a foundation then that we thought, well, maybe we can do that too. And my sister happened to be an attorney. She started the paperwork process needed to incorporate and so forth. But it was really a slow and long process because it took us a couple of years. We gathered a lot of input from the community. We had a couple of people who helped us greatly. Alice Zyla and Christy McGinley were our first board members, and they sat with my husband Craig and me and helped us think through what we would do. But then we gathered community people to meetings to just talk about what the foundation should be and how we should focus, how we could bring Rachel's spirit through it. And it was from all of that input that we formed our mission, that we developed our first plans. Our big event really was a conference. Our first big event was a conference in 2006, so it took some time to get started. And then we've just moved on from there.
And for viewers who don't know Rachel's story, she was on a peace mission in Rafah, in the Gaza Strip, and was killed in the process of protecting a Palestinian home from being bulldozed.
That's right. She was with the International Solidarity Movement in 2003. A tenth of the population of Rafah in the southern Gaza Strip lost their homes from 2000 to 2004 as the Israeli military was widening a buffer zone, clearing out whole neighborhoods. And Rachel, with 7 other internationals, was standing on that day to prevent a home in which she had stayed. There were 2 families in the home, 2 brothers and their 5 young children. They were watching from a crack in the garden wall, actually, as the bulldozer approached the house. Bulldozers had stopped on other runs that day, stopped at the feet of the activists. They'd pushed one into some concertina wire, but always they'd stopped before harming the internationals that were trying to challenge these demolitions, which are they're against international law. And so on that particular run, the bulldozer did not stop, and Rachel was killed.
And this is the 10th anniversary of that event. So I know that it's it's an important anniversary. I know it's not an easy time for your family. It never would be.
Right.
But tell us a little bit about the mission of the Rachel Corrie Foundation and how it supports her legacy.
Right. The mission, of course, it's the Rachel Corrie Foundation for Peace and Justice. And so we are pursuing peace and justice. Right now our focus is and has been on the Middle East, on specifically Israel and Palestine, because that's what Rachel drew us to. But our concerns are broader than that, and we support whenever we can other peace and justice issues. We network a lot with people in this community to try to support all of the local issues in some way that people are working on here. We believe all those things are connected as well. We use education. It happens in a lot of ways. We have a website where we try to educate, but we have a lot of events and so forth. We're working to build connections, and again, those are local connections, but also broader ones with people that we brought from Gaza, people that we brought from Israel. We've supported events where some of our Jewish Israeli friends have come and spoken in this community as well, people who are opposed to the occupation, Israeli occupation. We support grassroots work, grassroots action. We think that's what Rachel represented, and that's where we think real change comes, from the bottom up. And also art in the written word, because Rachel was an artist and a writer. Yeah.
Well, and I'm glad you brought that up, because her writings have been used to generate a lot of different forms of art, not the least of which was a play called I'm Rachel Corrie that was opened in New York a couple of years ago, but it's been touring too. And you just mentioned to me earlier that it's touring, has recently finished a tour, is touring in Scotland.
It did, just through this period of the 10th anniversary. It's been throughout the whole country of Scotland in multiple cities, and we're thrilled to hear this. It's had other productions in the UK as well. In fact, the first production was at the Royal Court Theatre in the UK. The play is drawn all from Rachel's writing. It was put together by Alan Rickman, the actor, and Catherine Viner, who's an editor at The Guardian, and they drew from Rachel's writing to create this work of art, theater art. And it's been on every continent, we believe, except Antarctica. It has been, you know, still many productions in the US and elsewhere. So it's been an amazing vehicle for sharing Rachel, but also for drawing people, I think, that might not be so interested in what's happening in this area, drawing them to it too, and helping them to see why it's important to all of us.
Jennifer, I want to ask you a little bit about, I know you're fairly new to our community, you came from the East Coast, but what drew you to the Rachel Corrie Foundation, and how are you involved there?
Sure. The main draw that brought me to the foundation is the grassroots piece that Cindy just spoke about. Really, any change that happens throughout history is going to start with individuals coming together and sharing those ideas, and then building a bigger movement. And that's what drew me into the foundation. But then as I've got to know the Corries and everything that Rachel's worked for, learning all of that has really broadened my horizons, and I'm so grateful to have come to be part of it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I want to ask both of you. You've been obviously with the foundation for 10 years. You've been with the foundation for not a year, yeah, you know. What are some of the most surprising things that have happened as a result of the foundation in your life and, excuse me, and in our community?
Well, it's extraordinary what has, I think, been accomplished, and the kinds of wonderful things that come our way. We just marked the 10th anniversary here in our community, and one of the things that we did was to bring a film called Where Should the Birds Fly? It's a film created by a Gazan woman, Fida Kishta, and Craig and I, my husband, we met Fida for the first time in Gaza in 2006, early in 2006. She has since been able to come to New York, but she was in Gaza. Her own home was destroyed in 2004. She met Rachel once. She knew others in Rafah. She was from Rafah, where Rachel was from. She was there when some of the the most violent attacks happened on the Gaza Strip in 2008 and 2009, Operation Cast Lead. And she was given a camera at some point by really friends in Europe. And I think Fida is an artist herself. She's created this film. But I thought it was so remarkable when I saw her speaking at our Olympia Film Society at the Capitol Theater. We partnered with the Olympia Film Society to bring it. And to think here was this woman that we had met in Gaza that now was in our community. And then later that night, Fida had brought a friend of hers, also from Gaza, with her, who's now has a fellowship, is studying in New Jersey. And the two of them were walking down the street in Olympia, and I looked at them and I thought about Rachel, and I thought she would be so amazed, you know, and I hope she's looking down and can see, you know, Fida and Abir walking down the streets of Olympia from the Capitol Theater. I think she'd be really pleased about that happening. So that's just one example of really extraordinary things that happen. We have the Olympia Rafa Solidarity mural. It was a huge process to create that mural, and I know that there's still people in the community that don't know what it's all about.
And it's down on State Street between Capitol and Water Street, or Columbia.
Yeah.
It's the big mural with the big leaves on the side.
Right. And we have information, actually, if people are interested in it, we can provide them a lot of detailed information about all those leaves. But there are artists represented there and organizations represented there, not only locally here from Olympia, but also from Palestine and from Israel and from other parts of the world. So I feel like the Rachel Corrie Foundation is very local in its essence, very focused on the power of grassroots activism, but also so global.
International in its reach.
And that really, I think, reflects what Rachel was trying to be, what she believed in, and also what she learned from this community. Was that our community was much broader than just right here.
Right. Well, I know that on Thursday, March 15th?
14th. Yeah.
There was a gathering at the Capitol that included former Congressman Brian Baird and other dignitaries and international guests, and we'll talk about that in a bit. You were there to share a message to our elected officials, and we're fortunate that TCTV member Dennis Mills was able to videotape a bit of that, and we're going to see a little clip from the gathering in recognizing the Rachel Corrie Foundation and the Rachel Corrie 10th anniversary. So we'll see that now.
My name is Brian Baird. Some of you know I had the great privilege to represent this area in 12 years in Congress, and tragically during that time we lost Rachel. And I want to share with Craig and Cindy a picture that they know well. That you mentioned Rachel's marching with the doves in the procession of the species. This picture following Rachel's death was on my desk every day. There weren't a lot of pictures on my desk, but this was one. And I've kept it. It was not hard for me to find because it's in a folder in my desk at home. And I kept it because the title of the folder says "The Reason." And the premise for me was this is part of why it matters so much that we speak about these issues. And I want to just share a couple of brief contextual stories. After Rachel was killed, I spent a great deal of time, as Craig and Cindy know, trying to understand what happened, introducing resolutions, advocating with our State Department, meeting with representatives of the Israeli government, etc. And a tremendously frustrating aspect of that was two frustrating aspects. One, it was tremendously difficult to get a straight story on what had happened. We were given parts of DVDs, parts of it. We were given still photos. We were given parts of testimonials. But when you looked at it, there were gaps that just didn't make sense. So if you tried to think like a detective and say, what really happened here? I need this piece of information to better understand what happened. That information was not forthcoming, and you would have to put more pressure and you'd get a smidgen more information. Throughout it, there was be perfectly honest, a combined air of what I later came to realize seemed to be rather artificial sympathy and condescension of, you know, you don't really have a role in meddling with this, as if a representative of the United States Congress who loses a constituent at the hands of one of our allies doesn't have not only a responsibility, but a right to query about what happened. That, however, it turns out, I think, is instructive of much of what happens in the region. For members of Congress, legislators as well, because there's a very active role to try to lobby state legislators as well, who try to understand what's happening in that region, and to understand from both sides, and multiple sides, because there are more than just two, as you know. There are immense blocks to trying to do that. Political blocks in terms of the consequences of even asking the question, campaign financing, but also physical blocks. You're not allowed into certain places. You're discouraged from going to certain places. And a second picture that I keep in this same folder, and this breaks my heart every time I see it. This was a well-circulated photo from Gaza during Operation Cast Lead, and many of you probably can't see this, but it's of three little boys who are laying on a rug, I think, and they could be just any children sleeping, except these children have died, and their parents are in extraordinary agony. It happened that I had two little boys at almost exactly the same age at that time. Those two little boys are playing with Kindles in the back now. Time passes. But when this happened, I said, you know, we need to go to Gaza. And I talked to my good friend Keith Ellison from Minnesota. And Keith and I arranged a trip to Gaza. It was not easy to do, actually. There was an obstacle from our State Department. There were obstacles from the Israelis. But we managed to get in. We were the first Americans in about 5 years, I think, 4 or 5 years. And I subsequently made 4 trips. And the message, again, to legislators or staffers here is you really can't understand this unless you try to see far more than one side. And there are so many pressures to try to get you to believe that there is only one side. And there are. And I want to be sure we also talk about a little bit today, the Israeli perspective, and we really must also condemn acts of terror against Israeli civilians. That includes rocketing that comes in, etc. Those two are not acceptable. And we in the peace community, we care about rights and justice there, and indeed one of my first conversations ever with Cindy was, how would your daughter feel, this was before a week or so before Rachel was killed, how would your daughter feel about if she knew there was going to be a bomb put on a bus with civilians in Israel? And true to Craig and Cindy, and as I've come to know them, as Rachel, as I understand Rachel, Cindy said, I think she would get herself on that bus and try to stop the bomb.
I want to thank Dennis Mills from our TCTV membership for providing us with that video. It looked like it was a really phenomenal event. And I know that there were visitors from other parts of the world here. Jennifer, why don't you share that story?
It was an incredible event, and it continued on through the rest of the weekend. We had a number of events that weekend to celebrate Rachel, remember Rachel, but also to move forward and work on the issue further. We had a guest come from Japan. He came last year as well, just to be in Olympia with us, to share with that special time that we celebrate each year and remember. He came from Japan, but every day for the past month or so, I've been reading very special emails from people all across the world and every continent, like Cindy says, writing beautiful poetry about Rachel and about her mission and our mission and connecting that way, sharing photos from their events. It's been really touching to experience that together throughout the world as one solid community, but so local at the same time.
Now, you're new to our community and relatively new to the Rachel Corrie Foundation, and your title, I think, actually belies what you do. You have the title of office manager, and I know that in small nonprofit organizations that the title is one thing, but what you actually do is sometimes a lot of other things.
Yes.
So aside from just administrative and coordinating all that, you're also involved in communication. So tell us a little bit about the communication activities of the foundation and how you're getting the message out.
Great. Yeah, our website is a fantastic tool. We encourage everyone to come to our website. We have lots of information about Rachel, her story, her writings, the art that's come out from her story, but then also the current issues and some of the causes and projects that we're working on. We share stories across the world on our website. We have our mailing list, which we also encourage you to sign up. We put out great information that way. We have video blogs and the Corrie's blog, but we also connect with bloggers in Gaza to share their stories on a monthly basis.
Facebook page?
Oh, absolutely. We're on Facebook and Twitter.
So like them on Facebook.
Yes, follow us there. Share us your stories. And we just like to connect. Our local community has such a strong connection to communities throughout the world. And once you just read Rachel's story, that comes to light so easily. That even if you're just interested in connecting with some people from different cultures, we might be the people in Olympia to talk to. One recent event we had in October was the first ever Arab festival to Olympia, and we were celebrating the Arab culture. We had performers, dancers, musicians, a fashion show, food and smells. Many of our Arab friends told us that it was just like walking through their Arab communities back home, that we were able to capture the culture and share it as a community together as one group. It was really a beautiful event, and people shared their stories and just talked about their experiences. It was a great learning experience.
Now this is the 10th anniversary year again, and we just mentioned that you had this wonderful event, and the Arab Festival, but there are a lot of things coming up in this year in recognition of this this particular milestone. So what are some of the programs that are coming up that you're involved in?
Sure, certainly. Every year we do hold a PeaceWorks event. In the past it's been conferences, as Cindy mentioned, that first big one they had. We've hosted the play. This past year, Arab Festival, we used as our PeaceWorks tool. This year we're spreading it out. So over the course of the year, we'll have a series of events locally around here, but also expanding that reach out to our further communities that are out there. But a lot of our education tools will bring speakers from Palestine, but experts on the field as well. We show films. Recently we had Remy Kanazi, he's a spoken word artist, come do a workshop with us, which was an excellent event. So we really like to broaden and do many different types of events that are going to educate the community, but also connect to the art and written word, which is so important to us.
Is there a flagship event being kind of planned?
I would just add that on April 9th, we have an amazing musical artist, Reem Kalani, coming to Traditions Fair Trade. It's a ticketed event, and people can buy tickets at Traditions. And Reem, I've never met her, but I've heard about her for many years. She performed at the International Children's Festival in Seattle 5 years ago. She resides in London, but she's a student of Arabic music, and she is Palestinian, that's her background. And she's going to be talking about this music, some of the historical elements of it, as well as performing it, but also sharing some of the music that came out of the revolution that happened in Egypt recently, in Tahrir Square, the Arab Spring. So I think that's going to be a remarkable event. Another piece that we're working very hard on, I was thinking when Jen spoke about Facebook and Twitter, I don't tweet. No, and I know I should, and I do have a Facebook page, but I became sort of overwhelmed with it, and so really the Rachel Corrie Foundation Facebook page is handled by the younger folks, and one of the gifts to me is I get to work with people like Jen, but also amazing students from the Evergreen State College, and now we have 2 graduate student interns, and it's just a privilege for me to be able to spend time with them and to know that as they develop and grow at the foundation, whatever they gather there, they take with them out into the world too. But one of the things being developed is a program, a leadership studies fellowship that we hope, if all goes well, will bring a young person from Gaza to Olympia for 3 months this year. We're aiming for summer, and work has been done by our intern to find out what kinds of skills, what kinds of experiences that young person, given the kinds of work he's doing in Gaza, would like to have here in Olympia. And we've done the work our intern has of connecting with local organizations that can provide that kind of experience. So we're going to be building those connections more. We're going to be bringing someone from Gaza and then letting them go home with new expertise, but also to have a chance just to step out of their situation a little bit. I think for all of us that have had the privilege of going there, it's been important to step in and to see what's going on and then to come back again and see how we can respond to that. And I think it's equally as important for people that are living in difficult places to have the opportunity, if they can, to step out for a time. So we're very excited about that possibility.
What are the challenges in making that happen specifically?
Well, getting visas and this is a young person, and for younger people particularly, to get visas to come to the United States is difficult. And we're very confident because we've thought this program through very carefully. We know this is a person that wants to come and do this work and then return and to work at home. But of course, there are always, for young men particularly, there are considerations to security. They're always scrutinized very, very carefully. And just getting to the places where they can do the visa appointments. It's easier now because there is movement from Gaza to Egypt. But it used to be almost a huge challenge just to get them to an American embassy where they could apply for their visa. That's less true right now. Yeah, there are those kinds of hurdles, of course, but we're pretty confident that this is going to happen. We've had other visitors recently, Amani and Shasi last year, who are part of a Corvallis, Oregon program that we networked with them and partnered and brought her here. So we're very hopeful about this. We're also looking forward to taking our own delegation once again during this 10th year. We would like very much to be in Gaza next year in March to mark the end of the 10th anniversary year with people from this area being there.
Well, time flies. We're having a wonderful conversation.
Yeah.
I don't want to let our time get away without telling people how they can support the Rachel Corrie Foundation.
Our foundation thrives by volunteers. We would love to have your time, your help, your efforts, anything that you would want to help us with, we will take it. For the Arab Festival, we had over 100 volunteers that helped make that happen, and we can't do it without you.
Right.
If whatever you're interested in or whatever your skills are, we would be glad to have the help.
About financial support.
And of course, the financial support. We are a small nonprofit, so anything that can be provided is greatly appreciated and goes right into our programs, but also to keep us afloat.
Can folks donate through the website?
They can go online, rachelcorriefoundation.org. They can donate online. We have a site there. It's very easy to use. But we also, our board, I just have to mention, our board of directors is incredible. They're all volunteers, and they're very involved with the foundation. And we're always looking to expand that if anyone is interested in joining with us. We do have an application process, of course, but we have various committees that they can help out on, and we'd love to have people join us. It'd be a great help.
Great. Well, I want to thank you both for being here. I'm sure we could talk another half an hour,
yes,
I think, about
easily.
things. But we do appreciate you being here on Mission Nonprofit. Best of luck on this 10th anniversary year. You have some wonderful programs and plans in the works. And if you'd like more information about the Rachel Corrie Foundation, go to rachelcorriefoundation.org to find out how you can contribute or volunteer. For all of us here at TCTV, I'm Deborah Vinsel. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again next month.